All right, let's go ahead and get started with this week. Fun fact, this is the second time I'm recording all these videos. The audio didn't work in the first time, so I recorded about 8 videos, and their audio didn't work. So shame on me for not checking that before I actually got started. So let's go ahead and log into our machines. We have a big week of loops and such. Okay. So to get started, what we need to do is we need to get our workspace ready. Now this week's going to be a little bit different because we're not only going to be doing the command line PHP and then run a program. We will this week get to the point where we are using the web root. And to use the web root will require a little bit of code. One time in the terminal emulator, but we will talk about that when we get there. First thing we're going to do though is just kind of set up our environment. I'm going to go to IDIA 618 workspace. I'm going to delete week 3 because you don't have that yet. I do because I made all the videos. And we're going to create a new folder called week 03, no capitals, no spaces. And I'm going to call it, examples. Hit create. Great. Okay. Then I'm going to go to Visual Studio Code. We're going to open that up. Of course, this is gone. We need to go to File, Open Folder, pick week 3. Example, which is going to be on our desktop IDIA week 3 examples. Click OK. Yes, I would like to. No, ignore that. All right, so there we go. Week 03 examples. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do is create a page, or what I would call, a PHP file. So we're going to call this one if.php because this week is about conditionals and loops. Now, conditionals are the idea that you can say if something is happening, then do this. And so we're going to set up a very basic example in PHP first with an if statement. Okay? So let's start our page normal with the alligator, the question mark, and the word PHP. And I feel like that's very representative of how we feel sometimes. We question why we're doing PHP, and there's like an alligator right behind us thinking, why are you doing PHP? Copilot, I'm going to close that too. All right. So now that we have PHP where we want it, the first thing that we want to do is do our first if statement. Okay, and so the first if statement is going to be, we need to compare something. And so the first thing that we're going to compare is a variable to a value. So I'm going to set a variable called user age, and it's going to be equal to 14. And then I'm going to set up my if statement. You type if, then you type parentheses, and then you put what you want to compare in that parentheses. So I can compare all kinds of things. The first one is I'm going to do a greater than comparison. And I'm going to say if user age is greater than 16, and then at the end of that statement you close the parentheses and then you open a curly bracket. A curly bracket, of course, is shift square brackets that we used during the arrays. So we're going to use a lot of different types of brackets and parentheses this whole semester. So if user age is greater than 16, echo You can drive, exclamation point, backslash, and semicolon. So let's save that. I know it's saved because there's no little like white dot there. Let us open our terminal. Let me go type cd. And where do I want to cd? I'm gonna, with the Explorer, the file manager here, I'm gonna drag that in, cd to our examples. Then I'm gonna type ls just to make sure that I'm in the right one, and there it is, if php. So I'm gonna type php if.php, return. Nothing happened. Why did nothing happen? Because our user age is not greater than 16. So let's go ahead and set our user age to be 17. Let's run it again by pushing up. You can drive. Okay, great. So what it did is it checked user age greater than 16. It rendered this statement as true. So when you do an if statement, everything in the parentheses is rendered as either true or false. If it's true, then do this thing. If it's false, don't do this thing. That is the logic of an if statement. Now, what if I said we're comparing. What if we set it to 16? What do you think is going to happen? Well, it's probably not what you expected, and I know that when I made this demo before, it wasn't what I expected, because I forgot that, okay, nothing happened. Why? Because is user age greater than 16? It is not greater than 16. It is equal to 16. So what should we use? We should use greater than or equal to. And the way we do that is we put the alligator sign, and then we put an equal sign, okay? And then we save that. And now we run it. You can drive. So as long as it's greater than 16, so there's 15. Oh, sorry, I did 15 the wrong way. There's 16. Here's 15. Run it. Nothing happens, right? Because it's not greater than or equal to. Okay, so let's do that really quick. And save it one more time and just run it one more time. Okay, so you can drive according to this. Great. I am actually going to turn off my video so that we have just access to the desktop. Alrighty. So then next is, well, don't we want to do something else probably? We do. And we call that an else statement. And the way we do an else statement is, well, actually, before we do an else statement, we can force it to do something else. We can say if user age is less than 16, echo, you are too young to drive. Semicolon at the end. Always a semicolon at the end of our statements. Save that. Run it. You can drive. Let's change it. Run it. You are too young to drive. Okay, let's clear our window. All right, so it is now doing if this, and then you do if this. This is the most inefficient. This is the most inefficient way to do an if statement. There's a way easier, and that is called an else statement. So to do an else statement, I'm actually just going to cut this, because we're going to need that in just 1 second. I'm going to delete this. An else statement is essentially you type ELSE parentheses, or curly bracket, and then you put what happens if this is not true. So if this is true, do this. Otherwise, do this. And so let's put our statement in, you are too young to drive. This is great for if you have a two, you know, sort of like a yes or no kind of setup. You do an if and then an else. So I'm going to save it. We've got the user age being 15. Let's change the user age to 16. Save it. You can drive. Change it to 12. You are too young to drive. All right. So that is the if statement, and then add an else statement to it. Let's pause there and move on in the next video to what we call if-else statements, which are ways that we can check multiple conditions.